And we're going to ask that unless you are speaking, that you keep your computer muted so that we're not hearing background noise. If you have questions, you can use the chat box and we'll be happy to either respond directly in the chat box or we'll speak directly to the question. We're going to ask that you turn off your cameras so that we're not recording things that maybe are going on in the background that you're not aware of. And when we are recording this, we're actually recording what's in the chat box as well, just so you know. And at some point today, our guest speakers are going to have you break into breakout rooms. And so just so you're aware, that will be part of today's training. And now, I think, if I can figure out. So today I want to introduce CJ Webb, Tony Smith, and Michelle Furman, and I'm going to let them take over.
Thank you, Jenny. There we go. So today's session is going to be identifying and nurturing skills within your child, the connection to employment. So we did want to know who was here today, so if you could put into chat maybe the age of your child, just to help us gear a little bit for today. So just put an age in the chat, and then that'll help. And so we'll also introduce ourselves. So I'm CJ Webb, and I work for Vocational Rehabilitation as the Pre-Employment Transition Services Program Coordinator, but I come to you today as an Oregon APSE board member, and APSE stands for Association for People Supporting Employment First. And I have been providing employment services to people with disabilities since 1992. And I actually went to school to work with little kids and use dance as therapy to help them. So I have been doing this a long time and have done a variety of different jobs since 1992. Tony?
Hi, I'm Tony Smith, and thanks for having us back, Jenny. No technical difficulties this time. So I'm the Director of Training and Quality Assurance at TVW. I'm also on the APSE board. I've been working with disability services for, I think since '94 was when I started. Actually, even before that, that was my first official job, I would say, but I did volunteer work prior to that through school. I've been teaching systematic instruction since 2016. That is one of my passions. I love doing it, and it'll probably try not to go too much into it, but I will bring it up today at some point. I do have family members who experience disabilities, physical, cognitive, mental health, and really, I love working with all people, disabilities or not, and really just helping people find more about themselves and gain confidence and realize that anyone can work if they want to. That's one of my passions. So working with students with or without disabilities is something I love doing. Michelle?
So I'll try to be good at muting because my mom is mowing outside, so hopefully there won't be too much background noise. So yes, I'm Michelle Furman, and I have been in the field of intellectual and developmental disabilities for over 10 years. And I have been very passionate about helping people, whether that's individually or supporting a team to help people find community in their community jobs. And so I've done that in the Valley and in Central Oregon, and coming to you today as an APSE board member since December 2014, which sounds like a long time ago, but it's been a great part of my professional development being on the board, and have been in the role of vice president for the past 3 years.
which has been an amazing journey also. So again, thank you, Jenny, so much for partnering with us in making these things happen. The three of us are thrilled to be here to chat with you all today. I did want to share with you a little bit about Oregon APSE and APSE in general. And the mission of Oregon APSE is to promote equitable, integrated employment of people with disabilities that recognizes their contributions as community members. So that's, again, a very big focus of APSE and Oregon APSE's mission. We represent Oregon chapter, the three of us, along with about 12 other people that are on our board, and then have a larger membership that we support. And we are part of the National Association of People Supporting Employment First, which is what APSE stands for. And it's the only organization with the inclusive focus on integrated employment and career advancement opportunities for individuals with disabilities. We would always love to extend the hand and welcome more advocates to be a part of our membership and even on our board. And so if you're ever interested in any of that, we have the OregonAPSE@gmail.com here on this slide. Feel free to reach out to us and ask us any questions about our membership or being part of our board. We do have, so Oregon and Washington partner each year, the APSE membership in providing the Pacific Northwest Employment Forum. And this year it's Oregon's turn to host that event. And although we were hoping that we would be able to provide this training in person, we have been working very hard on making sure that we can still provide training, but now it will be all virtual. And so the committees are working very hard to make sure that we have everything covered, including what COVID has done to the world of supported employment. And so these are the dates of our trainings that we will be having virtual conference. It's all going to be live at this time, except for one piece, but again, live trainings, all from 9:30 to 12:30. Is that correct, CJ? Yeah. For those dates.
9 a.m.
9 a.m. So our pictures are in the.
Oh yeah, and we're also working on some kind of social hour to be determined.
Wonderful. And those are the prices for the members and non-members. But again, if you're interested in attending and that's a hardship, we do have scholarships available. So again, please reach out to the OregonAPSE@gmail.com account. Thank you. So definitely some outcomes of what we want to see happen in within the hour that we're here together today. Our last webinar that we had, a lot of great feedback came back about wanting to learn more about transferable skills. And so we want to make sure that everyone here has a better understanding of identifying transferable skills. And Tony's going to talk really about what that means. Learning how to identify skills will assure more avenues that can be, pursued for employment options in the future with your children. And know that a job and career opportunities are endless for your child. So being able to have those three things come out of our conversations today is our hope and goal. And so we're looking forward to great conversation and interactions with everyone today. Thank you.
We also thought we'd get started with a poll to also see what is your understanding of the term transferable skills. So Jenny, if you could run the poll, if you could, is this the first time that you're hearing it? Just know a bit about them. You know it okay, or it's something that you think about regularly. Give just a little bit more time. Okay. All right, we have 4 people out of 6. Okay, we'll just give another couple seconds. Great. Thank you. So do you want to end the poll, Jenny? And most people know it okay. So this isn't the first time that anyone's hearing about it. So that is good, that it's going to help the conversation. So thank you very much, and we appreciate you sharing that information. Tony.
I think I have to close the poll, don't I? Never mind. I'm like, I can't see it, it's covered. Okay, sorry, I had the poll still covering my, all right. So transferable skills, you have some bullets there, but really these are skills that start early on in childhood, and we continue to learn and grow throughout our life. But these are things that will be easier to identify in kids through play, general education. If you're helping kids with homework, some just are really good at time management and completing things without a lot of extra support from parents. I don't have one of those children, but but yeah, just different things throughout life. But really, it's about play. You know, there are some people here who have older children, so 20, 15, 26. If there's any volunteer things, activities that people like to do, any type of social things, there's some slides coming up that we can talk about more, other things that people can go out and do to try and learn more about who they are as a person and what their abilities are. But I want to go over this first slide a little bit. We're seeing someone with who's playing video games on his computer, and some things that we can just see from the picture on computer or video games that kids could or could not show skills of. One is a reaction time, so that would be considered a transferable skill depending on what type of job you're looking at. Quick reaction time or slower reaction time, and it is also something that can develop as you, like when I play video games with my son, I do not have fast reaction time right off the bat, especially race car games. I crash all the time. Once you play it longer, you realize you get in a little niche and you're able to identify things, and so these can be developed with practice. But for a lot of kids, you'll find it's pretty already there. It's a natural type of skill. Hand-eye coordination, these are things that you can see in various video games, computer games. A really big one is kind of a softer skill that we're going to talk about more later, but being calm under pressure, or how you react to failure. Is something that you manage really well? That's a great skill that employers look for, or is it something that, you know, you've replaced a couple TV monitors or computer monitors over the years, or maybe your remote got thrown across the room a couple times. I have seen that happen, not in my household because my son knows he'll lose that computer for life. But I do know friends that they talk about having to replace those things. So those are things that, you know, you can identify and say, well, my child does not have a really good calm under pressure type of attitude. That doesn't mean they won't. That just means there's something to work on. But there's also jobs out there that don't care so much about that softer skill. Social skills. So this is debatable for some people. We think that kids are on the computer all day and there are no social skills happening. But when you really take the time to listen, there are some skills going on. They play live games. They meet people from, you know, classmates through other countries and through their school. So you can hear communication going on. You can hear chat. You can hear. Sometimes I'll have to remind my son that that's just not the best way to make friends. Things that he might say, or scold his teammate for letting him get killed in that game, whatever it was. So those are things. So there are social skills and communication going on in video games. There is something to gain from it. But some of us, I know myself still, I'm like, I just wish you'd get out and meet people face to face. Multitasking. So one thing I've seen with him playing video games is like right now I have my screen where there's the video chat going over here, the PowerPoint, and the actual chat box. And it's really difficult for me to focus on those. But I have watched him with his headset on, playing a video game at full speed, reaction time's great, monitoring the chat over here and talking to the people live that he's playing with. It's an amazing thing. I think he could probably be an aircraft controller with those skills that he has in juggling all of that. And he can tell me he's chatting in this box over here, and every once in a while he'll type back. So those are things that you can identify or say, okay, I now see that this is something we need to strengthen. Technology in general, that's more of a technical skill, more of a hard skill that can be learned over time. For me, it's taken a lot longer than others, but I am learning technology. Some you'll see early on as more and more in younger people that they are doing it a lot more through video games. He can set up his whole computer system. If I bought him a new computer, he could set it up at this point. Okay, at his age, I didn't know what a computer was. Probably 15, I knew what one was, but I didn't really have one yet. But writing, reading, like I said, he can monitor the chat off to the side. So he's reading messages from his friends, he's writing messages back. Those are all different things that you can get from just observing someone playing on their computer. Counting, depending on what the game is, matching. So that's just kind of an example with our first slide of things to look for, things that can be learned. This next one we're going to break down. I'm going to break down gardening, and then I want you guys to start thinking about the baking one. I'm going to ask for some group participation in that. But with gardening, let me see if I skipped anything big on video games. Gardening. So things that someone can learn through gardening. I am, again, I might have been a late bloomer. I am learning gardening on my own. My ex used to do all of the garden for us, and I would just enjoy the benefits of it. Now I'm actually planting and doing all that on my own. So I am taking a lot of these myself, going, this is awesome. So responsibility, learning the responsibility of caring for your plants, watering them daily, or sometimes I've overloved a couple of plants and realized they don't require daily watering. Confidence, self-confidence is a really great thing that can be built through gardening. When my first sprouts started coming up and I started seeing green that wasn't actually weeds, I called my sisters, I took pictures, I might have even posted it on Facebook. I was so proud of myself for accomplishing that. Creativity, so there's different things in gardening. It's not just growing vegetables, there's also flower beds, and being creative on how you design that. Is it going to be something that's a little bit more wild and organic and just, you know, I've seen gardens like that. PJ, I'm going to brag on yours. It's just this beautiful, like, lovely garden. Or I've seen some that are very structured, very height level, color organized. Everything's just in this pattern. So there is a lot of artistic talent that goes into that, or can go into it, doesn't have to. And so just recognize those different things of what part of this does your child or loved one enjoy most of it. Is it watching things grow? Is it being creative? Is it just embracing the earth, Mother Nature? I like to get my hands dirty. I just like to be outside. I like fresh air. Time management is a good one. So along with the responsibility, we're watering. How often do we do that? What time of the day do we do that? How much water do we do? When are we planting? Seasonal. So this is one that I keep forgetting to plant my spring garden because I don't think about it in the fall when you're supposed to plant your bulbs until spring when everybody else's are popping up and I see tulips and I'm like, I really wish I had tulips. Next year, one of you guys can remind me. But those are things that can someone, you know, put a plan together and say, oh, it's that time of year again. I think I'm going to get this ready and start working on it. When to pick, when to harvest. Do you want to pull your vegetable garden before you actually have vegetables in there? No. Do you want to wait until the cherry tomatoes have turned red versus green? So it's identifying when the right time is. Those are just, there's so many things to learn from gardening. Those are just a few. Nutrition is another one, just valuing the different things that you're growing and what it is, and again, you take pride in being able to feed yourself. I deliberately grow things that I can just pull and eat right there. I don't have to cook it. I've already washed it with my watering hose, and I just love that, to go out and say I can eat whatever's in my yard. And so, yeah, those are just some different things to look at to help identify. And if it's not there, if it's not a skill that you say this is something that can already be done, it doesn't mean they can't learn it. Like I said, just a few years back was when I planted my first garden, and I'm learning so much already. So these are things that can start early on in life, and they can come later on in life. It's a process, but it's just something to show an interest. If someone enjoys being outside that much, then it will give you some avenues of different jobs to look at later on in life when, or, you know, to put that on the list of this is one thing that I think they'll enjoy being outside. So the next one, if we can, I think if you're able to come off mute or just put in the chat, I would like to hear a couple different, as many as possible, things on baking. Sorry, I was reading the chat. On things that you guys think you see. And I'm going to go with baking or cooking. Planning and sequencing, yes. If you want to go into more detail, you can. If not, organizing, absolutely. That's where I started with organization. Creating, sometimes you need to start with that. What ingredients do I have? And should I start a shopping list? So it can go even further than baking. It can now take you into the grocery store. It can take you in your reading and writing skills. Are you going to write that grocery list by hand, or are you going to use a little phone app, or how are you going to know? So I can go off in all kinds of different directions. But yes, following a recipe, visual or words, that is great. And you know, there's also some creativity that can be done. So that's, again, to learn what type of learner are you, or what type of person following directions. I tend to get lost in my recipes. I just get a little overwhelmed and excited. I don't know. And then I realize I missed something important. I actually make a really good chili that I have a secret ingredient because I accidentally put it in there one time. It's cinnamon. It was supposed to be cumin, and it was cinnamon. And I'm like, hey, this actually tastes good. So that is now my actual ingredient all the time in chili, but that's because I lose track of what I'm looking at. Yeah, you should see me in the kitchen. Where are we at? Planning, sequence, measuring, button pushing. Yes, and so there's also some technology involved with that if we're looking at using a microwave, using an oven, putting it on the proper settings. So we have the temperature control, we have the timer, the bake setting, are we going to bake it? Making those decisions, where's this going to go? What type of pan are we going to put it in? And then with measurements, that's another one, you know, having some type of counting breakdown. I use my Google a lot of times because what they're calling for in my recipe isn't what is on my measuring cup, so I have to do that little search. So there's another skill that I'm learning. I can Google search things to find out what's the transition, if I'm doing pounds to ounces to whatever. It's calling for this, and I only have this, so how do I break it down to make sure I'm getting the right thing in there? Fine motor skills, yes. If we're looking at the stirring methods, if we're looking at rolling dough, if we're looking at using the cookie cutter and getting those out without damaging our cookie, putting them on the tray. Measuring and then adding ingredients, absolutely. Spatial skills when using the cookie cutter. Oh, CJ, are you talking about like not cutting over? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, because you want the cookie cutter to be on the dough,
right?
And not like off, you know, having, because that one's an Eiffel Tower. It's a big cookie cutter that takes some.
And that's something to look at too, is how are they, there's a pattern and a technique to use with that too, especially if you don't want to re-roll your dough so often. You want to get as much use of that flat piece of dough as you can. So are you watching to see, like with that one, I could see you would do it one way and then turn it to kind of get as much use of it before you have to roll your dough up and re-flatten it. So You know, is that something that they naturally do? Is that something that you teach them to do? Those are just things to observe. If it's something that they naturally do, you can kind of tell that someone's pretty natural at identifying patterns and putting a plan together to make sure I can get the most of this space of dough that is possible. Are there any that I'm missing down there? Okay, let me see if I have more. Oh, attention to detail. Well, we talked about that, following recipes, but that would also cover attention to detail, proper measurements, setting the temperature, bake time. 5 minutes versus 10 minutes on a certain recipe could make all the difference. If you're, especially cookies, the kind that I cook are pretty sensitive to heat. Patience. Oh, this was a good one. Waiting for dough to rise, or waiting for that timer to go off, especially if you start smelling the cookies, or making a pie, which takes like hours. And you start to smell it within a half an hour, and it's got another half hour to bake, and then you have to wait a half hour for it to cool. Those are things that I don't have, obviously, but you can tell, you know, is this someone that continues to open the oven door while the cookies are baking? And I learned the hard way, that's not the best thing to do. But yeah, you're learning patience, and then you can identify either teamwork or independence. Which does someone prefer? Does someone enjoy working as a collaborative group? Is it something that they enjoy doing as a social thing, or is it like, clear the kitchen, I'm going to start cooking and I need my space? And as you can tell from my stories and the messes that I make, that's my style. I'm more independent. I'd probably do better if I went teamwork, but I'm more independent. Let's see, yeah. So those are just some examples. There are more. We can talk all day on just one picture. But I think what we want to do next is do our breakout rooms. And I think we have enough to do 2 rooms or 3, whatever you guys suggest, DJ and Michelle. And we're just going to have a conversation as a smaller group in that. That way we can all come off our camera and just share stories or something that your child enjoys. And it could be anything from sports to clubs that they're a part of, to video games, any of that. And then we're just going to have a group discussion about sharing some transferable skills that are in that. What I find is I can go in one pattern and forget, like on this other one, like CJ talking spatial, things like that. I wasn't thinking that way. And so as a group, I think discussing that will help us identify a few more. When you guys are ready.
So I was also thinking we might have some people, just a couple people in the main breakout room that will be recorded. So could you go to your participant list and just raise your hand if you're willing to stay in the main room? I'll give you just a second. Anyone willing to stay in the main room? And if not, we'll all go to breakout rooms, I guess. Anyone want to raise their hand? If you click on the participant, there's a little button underneath and you can raise your hand. So Lori will stay in the main room. Anyone else? One other person maybe?
I don't care.
So Laurie, it's going to send you to a room. I can't not send you to a room. You just leave the room and you'll go back to the main area. It's dividing everybody equally.
Okay.
So CJ, you'll have, like, whoever's going to be in the main room will have to go back as well.
Okay.
Facilitator. Okay, so I'm opening the rooms right now. And the first one, we're going to do 8 minutes. So I will give you a 30-second warning right before that 8-minute mark. So sometimes it takes a little bit from your end as a participant to see it pop up, but you should all be seeing it now. Tony, you're muted.
Thank you. I don't know how I did that. I might have accidentally. So Lori and Jenny, thank you guys for volunteering to be in this one, and I got kicked back. CJ said to come back. So yeah, this one I'm excited about just because it's just a small group. It's the discussion. So it's not the big camera, 8 people watching me. It's just you two, and we get to talk together. I get to watch you back now. So we're just going to talk about some things that your child enjoys. Let's not get too deep in it yet. I didn't want to stress people out with, I have to think of something that relates to a job. You don't. That's what we're going to do over the course. Just think of anything, and we will work it out and relate it to a job.
Okay.
So anyone want to go first? Feel free to tell the whole story. I like to hear.
I can. So my son's 20. He's severely autistic, nonverbal, and a low IQ as well. And so we're just starting this whole process. We've just moved from overseas here to, well, we've lived in Sun River, Oregon for 20 years, but as our summer home, but this is now our home. So starting to explore this all. So my son he loves the outdoors, and he likes to hike.
Sun River, oh yeah.
Yeah. So he likes to hike and bike, ride in a boat, a kayak, anything to do with water, swimming. Yeah, that's pretty much what he likes to do. He can play one video game, that's Mario Kart, and we're not really sure he likes it, but he does it. So outdoors is really
that is
passion.
Gosh, I'm an outdoors person. I love going outdoors, and my son hates it. He'd rather stay home playing video games. So anytime you want me to come hike, I will. Our hiking partner. So outdoors, things that we can think about, and I'll ask questions because I automatically think totally independent, but I start that way, and then I'm like, okay, we'll back out a little bit. So boating, you said kayak.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something he does on his own? Is he in his own kayak, or is with family?
No, he rides in a double kayak, and he doesn't row.
Doesn't row. Is there? I'm just going to ask this because for myself, I would say the reason why is because I did a lot for my son that I didn't have to. I just wanted him to always be happy. So is it? He's just said absolutely no, or can we push that a little bit more? Like, I need help, I'm getting tired.
Yeah, no, he just drops it. He drops the floor, and he won't do it. So he doesn't understand it. He's got very little cognitive ability. So doesn't quite get the whole motion of it.
Is he willing to wear the life jacket?
Yeah.
Okay, all of that, and stays stable in the boat, doesn't get up and start walking around, doesn't try and jump off the side. Okay, so those are some safety things to think about. So a life jacket I compare to like PPE. So you can wear a life jacket because that's required for this task that I enjoy doing. And so finding a job that someone enjoys doing means that they will be more willing to wear the proper things that they can. If they don't enjoy doing it, I'm not going to put gloves on for anything. I really don't like gloves. But I will put them on to garden. I will put them on for other things that require them. So keep that in mind that, he's pretty, so what I'm thinking, independent, knows what he wants and doesn't. So if he doesn't want to do it, he's not going to. I like that. But now you have to make sure that one of the things you're looking at is making sure you find things of interest. Because if they like it, they'll do it. Biking, does he ride his bike independently, or is that a tandem style bike?
Completely independent.
Okay, cool. So then he wears his bike helmet, no problems. So he's got, again, there's that I can do safety when I'm doing something that I enjoy. And then there's balance, there's endurance, there's direction, maybe. Does he ride with the flow of traffic? Does he ride only in certain areas, parking lots? So does he have that street safety?
Yeah, as long as we're with him. But yeah, he understands cars and
so there's that.
One's coming and things like that. So.
Yeah. So that's really good. It's saying that I do understand these things. Again, it needs to be something that I'm interested in. If as does most of us. I myself don't like to do things I don't like to do. So outdoors is a pretty big theme there of an interest. Hiking, is it long? What does he do when he's hiking? Does he stop and smell the flowers? Does he put his feet in the water? Does he just go until you say it's time to turn around? Does he stop and observe things?
Nope, just hikes. So quite often he really works hard. So we can put like a weighted vest on him, and he'll hike to the top of a mountain faster than we will. So
physical ability, having some type of work that he could be on his feet a majority of the day, and that he can continue working without having to take breaks is are really good. And a lot of trade jobs, that's what you're looking at. Attention to detail, riding the bike, staying safe in the boat, things like that. He can follow those things that, there are a lot of things that, we struggle with finding those full-time jobs because someone can only stand for 2 hours. But it sounds like if it's something that they're interested in, they'll engage a lot longer. So that's good. And those are things, I don't know if he's been through discovery yet. But if he does go through it, that you would let that discovery specialist know. These are really things that there's an interest. And I had another question and I talked over myself and let it go out the door. Jenny, if you want to jump in, you can for anything. I'm just thinking of my other question I had for this.
Yeah, so for Christian, he's very social. So he likes to be around people and he likes to ask lots of questions. He's very inquisitive. He does have some activities he likes to do outside. Like he has a tricycle, adult tricycle that he likes to ride. He loves to go and observe the boats on the river. That's one of his favorite activities. He likes to play basketball. He has a trampoline in his backyard. He likes to jump on the trampoline, and oftentimes he likes to just sit there, and he likes to just soak up the environment. It's kind of fun.
Yeah. So again, there is a lot of physical and people skills. Asking questions is inquisitive, critical thinking, being able to say why is awesome. I remember what I wanted to ask you, Lori. Communication. So, I think you said nonverbal.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I got echoing. Does he type? What is your form of communication with them? No.
We very little.
Very little.
He can kind of tell us what he wants and needs, but that's about it. So.
Have you had any assessments for that to try and figure out a format for communicating? Because what I've seen, you said 20 years old.
Mm-hmm.
With that age is with any age actually, with any age. Telling me about the hiking and biking and having that safety and that it's obvious he enjoys these things, I would love to figure out a conversation with him in whatever fashion he's comfortable with, writing, tablets, however it can be determined that he's most comfortable communicating, to find out his thoughts during those times. What is he thinking of when he hikes? I mean, my head floods with things when I'm out in nature. What does he enjoy most about biking? Is it just that I can do it, which is, it's great skill to say I can do it, or is it I like the wind in my face, I like speed, I like adrenaline? I want to know, but I understand.
Don't know.
Yeah.
No, he's been through many types of trainings for AAC devices and such, and
not found one of interest yet. And that's one thing that I have seen is people will pick their favorite, and you can go through a bunch of different types. And I can think of one gentleman that still uses a letterboard when he can use technology, but this is his preferred method. If that's your preferred method, that's how we're going to communicate with you. Are we coming back?
We are. So that little beep that you heard was the
30 seconds?
The 30 seconds.
Okay. We didn't get much to yours, but we can if we break out again. Are we all back yet?
Yay, that was great. Oh, sorry.
I don't think CJ saw it.
Jenny?
Hey, it's time.
Okay, so do we have to leave room? You're not bringing us back? Okay.
No, yeah, can you leave?
Yes.
Okay.
Wonderful.
So we're all back? It looks like? No. We're missing Rebecca, or did she have to log out? I remember seeing that name. All right, well, if we want to start back, does anyone want to go first to kind of highlight what the discussion was in your room? And if anyone from my room wants to say, here's what we discussed, that's totally fine. If not, I will do it for you. But if you want to come off mute and talk about it, you can.
Yeah, I'll go. By the way, 8 minutes went way too fast.
It did.
So I'm like, oh my gosh, 30 seconds left. Okay. Yes, we talked about not only video games, and you did a great job of really talking about that, Tony, earlier, but Legos.
Oh.
Yeah, right? That's what I said. Oh, let's talk about that.
I say that when I step on them too. Sorry. Yeah.
But, you know, not only the thought of Legos, and so in my mind, I kind of went all over the place. And so we talked about, you know, how do they buy the Legos? You know, they have to save the money up to go and buy the Legos. And then how is that happening? And sharing like, this is where you're at, and this is how much more you need. But even working on those skills of being able to save, so that's something that could be worked on, because when he does go to the store, he'll just, even when it's not for Legos, it's for something else, but this is the amount of money you have, and he'll just give the money and leave and not wait for change. And so that was something we talked about. We talked about, does he buy the Legos and then create his own masterpiece? But he actually is really, he doesn't do that. He prefers to follow instructions. So, and then I can't remember the last time I saw Lego instructions because my children are much older. So I asked about, is that in Word, is it in writing, or is it in visual? And so he actually follows the visual cues for building that Lego piece. He's very strict about making sure he follows that. So we talked about, you know, in employment, making sure that that follows him into employment, and making sure that the potential employer knows that this is what works best for him, and it needs to be a visual task list versus a written task list. And then I shared also what a great universal design that is for not only for him, but for anyone who's employed there. I'd rather look at pictures because they're a little bit more fun than reading words. So we talked about the benefit of that. And after he's done creating his masterpiece, how does he display them? And so he has shelves in his room that he displays all of his Lego art. And then Mother shared that it's now trickling into the front room, you know, so he's very proud. He's very proud of the work he does. And when people come and ask him about it, he's very open to be able to share with them what he's done. And so there's a sense of pride in the work. And so being able to even think about that down the road in employment, you know, making sure that he can share that he's proud that he accomplished this task. So it was great.
Our group talked about some great skills that people had, that their kids had, and one was really nice because it kind of took form younger by just talking about different things that were going on in the kitchen and talking about why you use certain utensils and things like that. So just that ability to observe and listen created some definite skills that this person had. And we also talked about some things that needed to be learned, and how kind of thinking about other activities, fun things that the person likes to do, that they could associate with that same thing that they needed to learn, and trying to be creative, and then they can associate that when they're in the kitchen trying to learn some other things. So for time wise, that's all I'm going to share.
I'll be really quick with ours, I think, because we do want to get on, but we talked about a gentleman that enjoys outdoors, hiking, riding bikes, boating, kayaking specifically. And so there was the endurance that we talked about, that with hiking, he just enjoys it. He'll hike. Balance, but riding the bike, he's got that safety awareness, so he knows to stay out of traffic. He still rides with family, but he knows to stay off to the side of the street, and he does that independently. Kayaking, he enjoys being in the water. He enjoys being in the boat, staying safe in the boat, so he doesn't try to attempt to get out or anything. He wears his life jacket how he should. And so again, there's that safety to do this thing. I need to be safe, and I'm willing to put this on. But one thing with kayaking is he doesn't help. He goes along for the ride. He doesn't want to oar. If you give it to him, he'll just drop it. But we know he can do things because of the biking independently and stuff. So that just kind of tells you a little bit that this is someone that will decide what he wants to do and do what he wants to do, which is pretty much all of us. But he can make that need known, or that, known that I'm not doing this. And so, making sure any job that they find for him is something of interest, because if he's interested, he'll use PPE if needed, and he'll remain safe, and he'll stay on his feet all day if that's what it takes, and he'll be outside in, our Oregon weather. It's just finding that right fit to know that these things, a lot of personality, and just in a small task that we had 8 minutes to discuss. There's many more things that I'm sure he does that we can find. So I think, though, for time, if we move on to the next, and we probably won't do the breakout. So we're talking about soft skills, which is, a transferable skill, but this is one that is kind of our behavior and personality traits. These are things, again, that you can identify early on in toddlers, that natural soft skills that they have, but it can also be learned over time. I'm still learning my, best way to interact with people by trial and error also. But these are things that you can start noticing. Oh, I found a video last night on Facebook of a boy and his puppy. And I saw so many soft skills in that: reading stories, singing, cradling them. Now, it was great seeing. But, these are things you can see more of when someone is employed. You'll find that soft skills are usually what keep us in that job or make us more attracted to that employer. And they're also what usually get us fired or disciplinary action is for that. Insubordination, not getting along with your coworkers, attendance, punctuality, things like that. Those are more of those soft skills. The technical part of the job can be taught. But the soft skills on whether or not you care to show up, whether or not you're going to wear the proper uniform, things like that, is your personality of, I just don't want to do it. I don't care. So how do we identify those? Again, it's through what we do every day, what we enjoy. And I'm looking through, let's just move on to our pictures. We can discuss it. So we have different things. Sports is a really big one that you can identify both technical and soft skills out of. Things to identify through sports are like teamwork or independence and individuality. Am I a long distance runner? I like to run alone, be on my own, or am I a team player? You'll also learn that, how people react to failure. Team sports is a really good thing on that. How you react when you win. Are you a good sport about it, or are you going to rub it in your opponent's face? Same as when you fail. Are you going to learn from it and move on, or are you going to quit? These are things that can be identified early on, and identifying them early on, you can also work on them. I think sports is a great one. Communication through sports. Again, what is your child demonstrating? Are they showing leadership? Are they coaching and motivating their coworkers, giving them positive kudos, you can do it? Or are they talking down to them because they struck out? Resilience, again, you win, you lose. That's the object of sports. So how does someone handle both? Critical thinking, depending on the sport, there's that adjustment. I'm just looking at the picture of the kid holding a bat. So there's different ways you hold a bat. You might have struck out, so your coach is going to teach you. You might need to choke up on the bat, or loosen up, or tighten up, or whatever it is you need to do. And so you would make those adjustments. You're coachable. Problem solving, critical thinking, how can I get through this? Goal oriented, obviously the goal is to win the game. For some it's not. My son stopped sports at 5th grade because it became less of a fun with his friends and more of a competition. And when I really talked to him, why aren't you doing this anymore? It was like, it's just not the same as it was last year. And it's true. The kids at that age started being more, we're here to win. And it wasn't as much just fun as he was there for. Following rules, and that's just with sports. All of these skills, you can see a lot of those, or all these pictures, you can see different things. I'm just kind of monitoring time. We're at 2 minutes. I don't think we'll have time for the group, so I'm just going to explain a little bit more on it. Animals is a really good one. Animal care, pet care. So, you know, one of the pictures there is a person and a horse, and I was on the board for a horse equestrian therapy program for a while, and it was one of my favorite things to do, was take my turn volunteering out there, and seeing kids who used a wheelchair as their primary mode of getting around and their freedom being on a horse. But also that was an ability to show balance, my communication skills, empathy for animals, responsibility for caring. All of those things come from working with animals, you know, babysitting your siblings, things like that, nurturing, working with pets, walking your dog, feeding, making sure they're watered, making sure they've gone out for their walk, grooming, cleaning up after them. Those are things that they either do it or they don't. That's just something you can identify from that activity. And if they don't, is it something that can be taught, or is it something that we can say, you know, I like working with pets, but I don't want to clean up after them. So now it's just a hobby. We're not going to look for that job in that area, possibly. Do you guys want to add anything? I'm trying to speed it up, but also cover, I don't want to, let's just go over, so top 5 top skills when you're looking at jobs, when you're looking at resumes, these are things I will put on my resume. And these are things you can learn from all of these activities early on. Is your communication style. Do you listen? Do you give feedback? Do you take feedback? Critical critiques. Do you take them well? You can learn that from sports and all of that. Your leadership style. Again, are you, even working with animals shows a leadership style of, are you able to train, you know, walking the dog, being that leader, problem solving, critical thinking. Those are through reading, play, friendships, housework, and then that overall positive attitude. These are things that keep us employed or have us as an employer look at, I really want this person because they can learn how to enter stuff into that database, but it's harder to teach them how to get along with all of their coworkers, and this person can or can't. So soft skills are part of that, the transition skills, or transferable skills, but they're really something you kind of start with. You can build on, but you'll see it early on in kids. Any questions? I feel we didn't have time for our breakout session for that one. I really want to be able to go over more and hear your guys' stories.
Only thing I want to mention about soft skills is that it is over time and things grow and change, kind of as what you were saying, Tony. So I think because we are at time, We also wanted to put a reminder to complete the survey that Jenny sends out, because they really could use your feedback on this, as well as all the other questions that she asks. So
appreciate it, guys. This was amazing. I feel like, you know, even with Christian at 24, we're thinking about what is the next step? Is he going to be working in the same job for the next 10 years or not? What other skills do we build on? This really makes you think about the things that we do every day that we don't even think about, how you break it down into skills. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it. I don't see any questions in the chat. So I think we're gonna end. I will be sending out an email with the survey link, and we will have CJ and Tony and Michelle's contact information in that if you wanted to reach out and ask them any questions going forward. But thanks everyone for joining us and spending the last hour at your lunchtime with us, and we hope we'll see you again.
Thank you, Jenny.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you everyone for joining us.
I'm just gonna ask before I hit leave. I'm staying on, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna stop the recording.
I get like that close up part. I'm like, I'm just gonna leave.